I went into Valfaris Mecha Therion fully prepared for the next ultra-difficult action platformer. You know, following the original, a fantastic metal-infused experience, very much expected more of the same here with this sequel, but boy, was I wrong. They've switched up this genre on us entirely. This is now a shoot 'em up, but is it worth your time? Let's find out. Alright, if you do enjoy this video, do me a favour, subscribe, helps out the channel a huge amount, but we're jumping right in with story, and it's relatively simple, but it serves as a nice continuation from the original series entry, and that is, we've escaped Valfaris and now we're hunting for the evil Lord Vroll. That's really it. Jump into our secret weapon, the title and mech suit, and blast everything in sight. It is more than enough, and there are a few fun characters to meet along the journey. There's also then snippets of backstory that do build on the worlds. When it comes to gameplay, as I mentioned at the beginning of this review, I went into this game expecting more of the same. In fact, I have an hour of gameplay with commentary over on SwitchCorner. I'll link that video down below, but you'll see me expecting to be on foot only to find a shoot 'em up. Now initially I thought this was just kind of a cool opening sequence and that we would hit a checkpoint to continue on foot, but that moment never comes. About 15 minutes in, I actually realized my expectations were completely wrong, and this isn't a complaint but more of a heads up. We are so used to seeing more of the same from sequels, we do kind of tend to expect it nowadays, and I'm sure some of you are going to make that same assumption as me. Thankfully though, what we do get here is a very good experience. So how does the gameplay work? Well, our mech suit obviously can fly. It's auto side-scrolling and you can speed up, slow down and move vertically freely. You will also quickly uncover that enemies can come from both sides of the screen, which is somewhat a rarity in the genre, but this leads to a bit of advice from me. When it first introduces this mechanic, it gives you the option to have the mech turn around automatically, or you can manually control it. Select and practice manual control. The automatic mode, for me at least, it just couldn't keep up with the increasing difficulty as the game did progress. Aside from that though, everything else is really well implemented. We have a ranged attack and a short range attack, as well as some special abilities, such as the ability to throw our sword in a boomerang fashion, and a dash ability which will be essential during these many boss encounters. Now this dual weapon setup is one of the game's standout features. It adds a layer of strategy. Now why is that? Because your gun will gradually reduce in power as you use it. You need to charge it up. You do this by dealing damage up close and personal with those melee attacks. Your firepower damage is basically linked to the meter under the health meter in the upper left of the screen. You use that gun too much, this is going to dwindle very quickly. It's a really simple mechanic though that constantly keeps you on your toes, and it offers a refreshing spin on risk and reward gameplay. If the original game taught us anything, it's that this team just knows how to implement creative and often devastating firepower. That innovation continues here. Now weapons, they can be powered up, there's the occasional pickup, but this game is a little more intentional with its firepower than most in the genre, and it's actually very simple. Basically, each level is littered with checkpoints where you can land and switch new firepower in and out. You can even attach special abilities such as an early electricity power activated with the X button. Additionally, you can upgrade all of these weapons to a maximum of 3 levels using resources collected either by finding them in the world or destroying those enemies. I really appreciated though that if I encountered a challenging segment, I could switch to another weapon that might be a little bit more effective in that moment. None of these things matter, of course, though, if the level of design isn't well implemented and the enemies and boss encounters aren't, creative. Now, thankfully, aside from a couple of quibbles, I'm happy to say that they are. The fast-paced nature of the experience means you are constantly visiting new areas, and each is notably different from the last, demanding something new from you. They even often feature obstacles and a few different paths that you can take. A minor complaint with the level design, occasionally I found it a little difficult to identify what I would and wouldn't collide with, but again, this is definitely minor. On top of this though, the constant switching in locations is then met with a slew of unique enemy designs, each posing its own unique attacks. While some feel a little cheap at times and there are notable difficulty spikes, I generally enjoyed the variety. Now though, let's talk about the bosses, and these for me are the highlight of the game. Now, I did again find difficulty spikes here as well, and nothing major, but there was a couple that felt like a breeze following bosses that had just previously absolutely destroyed me. But yeah, the mix here is nice, ranging from screen-filling monstrosities to smaller, agile enemies that do demand precision. Some final notes on gameplay. Occasionally I did notice minor frame rate drops and stumbles, but these did not detract from the overall experience, nor did they, influence, I guess, any deaths. In terms of replayability then, the game offers multiple difficulty levels, catering to both beginners and seasoned players, and my first run personally on normal difficulty, it took me in the region of 3.5 hours. So overall for this one, from a gameplay perspective with, Valfaris Mecha Therion, it's a bold move to switch the genre entirely for a sequel, but I think here that risk pays off. Visually, Valfaris has always been a personal favourite, and my appreciation of its style continues with this sequel. For those who may not have played the original, it's influenced by metal, and for me, that's exactly what they embody here. With each scene, it feels like we could be looking at a living, breathing metal album cover. It's all implemented as well, then with a unique pixelated 3D style that really works for me personally. On one hand, it feels old school, but on the other hand, it gives them the flexibility to add a huge amount of detail to each location. The location changes constantly as well, keeping the experience fresh, and the gunplay, enemies and boss encounters all, in my opinion, top quality. My only minor complaint is the font used for the brief dialogue exchanges. It personally tripped me up a few times, especially with character names. I do appreciate the commitment to the pixelated style, but I think the readability would have been better with something a little crisper. It is minor though, and it's not the common text size issue we do face. This is fine here. It's just a stylistic choice that, didn't quite click with me. When it comes to audio, what would a metal-inspired experience be without a killer soundtrack? And they have nailed it. The game constantly pumps out riff after riff, driving you to the edge of your seat as you slay hundreds of enemies. You're going to be battling 200, 300, 400 enemies per level, and on that note, actually, after each level, you do get a handy results page that summarizes these accomplishments. But yeah, from a music perspective, I really do think it is the backbone of the experience. It adds the excitement, but what surprised me was it even occasionally packs a few different influences. Think a dash of electronic reminiscent of bands like Nine Inch Nails, and even some world music influences subtly floating in the background. Overall though, the music is banging. I'd happily listen to it outside of the game world. And yeah, this audio then is further reinforced with minor environmental effects, and of course a whole lot of gunfire that sounds incredibly satisfying and heavy. Overall, Valfaris Mecha Therion took me completely by surprise, mainly because I wasn't paying attention to pre-release marketing. Now, as I've said, I went in expecting more of the same, that ultra-challenging action platformer. In fact, I was excited for it, but what I got here was something completely different. At this point though, I've got to say kudos to the developers. It's a bold move, and it is one, in my opinion, that pays off. It just feels like a good use of these characters, and I did enjoy the continuation from the first game in regards to story. They also take enough risks here that it feels unique for the genre, from weapon upgrades to a unique weapon recharge system, and overall, I had a blast with it, and I'm going to be returning now to try that harder difficulty. At this point though, I do want to say it does have a couple of issues. The difficulty balancing at points feels off, and the frame rate drops, though not in my opinion disruptive, they are present. But generally, I think series fans and now shoot 'em up genre fans should be taking a look at this one. It is a great 8 out of 10 from me, it comes recommended, and now I just want to go and listen to that soundtrack again. So will you be checking out Valfaris Mecha Therion? Let me know in the comments. With that, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews, deals, news and lists daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.